Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the second part of Omni Magazine asking people what life would be like in 2007, where an article from 1987, they asked numerous thinkers to predict the future 20 years from now. And it's actually been really entertaining seeing what people thought 2007 would be like. Now, of course, it's 2021 now, but it's been surprising how some of the thinkers here, like Bill Gates and stuff, have been pretty spot on with their predictions for what would happen.
We are entering the future again.
Okay, so next up is William McGowan, who is the CEO of MCI Communications. I think MCI was a phone company back then, or something like that. It definitely familiar. I'm familiar with it. All right, let's see what he had to say about what life would be like in 2007. Most companies will be trading 24 hours a day in just a few years. You won't hear that clanging bell when the market stops. It's going to be a continuum because information is that way. I can reach any information I could possibly use in a few seconds with my little PC, whether it's commodities, news, or a search. Okay, not bad. Now, the New York Stock Exchange, I think that's what he's referring to with the clanging bell, still exists. It still has set hours. Clanging bell still happens. But it is true that you can trade off hours, I believe. And if a company is listed on multiple exchanges, like if it's listed in New York, listed in London, and listed in Tokyo, it is potential that you could trade it 24 hours a day. And really, thanks to computer, stock broking, buying and selling, I think really you can trade stocks at almost any time. I'm not a day trader. I don't do internet trades, so I don't know quite how the accessibility works. But his prediction's pretty solid. That you're able to trade stocks at any time, reasonably correct. What was the next bit about? Oh, that you can find information at any point in time, about commodities and news and stuff. Absolutely. I think we all know that. Internet searches, information, instantly, whatever you're looking for, yes. So I'm seeing a common trend with some of these futurists that they all seem to be predicting accessibility to information and how much it will improve over those 20 years. All right. We still have in front of us another 100 to 1 drop in the cost of computing power using today's technology. Yes, the improvements to computer technology has expanded by leaps and bounds. This was, of course, predicted under Moore's law and so forth. Not a huge, future prediction. You could sort of see the trend in how much computer technology was improving. But this was 1987. This was still pretty early in the computer age, and it was still not common for everyone to have a computer at home, and you didn't have mobile phones and the internet and this kind of stuff. So yes, computer technology definitely advanced a lot. Then we may have to figure out how to compute using chemical reaction. Probably the best guess is light for computing power. Okay, maybe he's thinking about how there's limits to what we can do with transistors, because transistors are what really drives computer processing. I know there's all sorts of stuff trying to look at quantum computing and all this kind of thing, and he's probably hinting at that. But unbeknownst to him, using transistors is still going on. We're now at around the 10 nanometer, 7 nanometer chips, and the potential to go maybe 5 or 4. So there's still a little bit of room for improvements in computer power using transistors. But I think he then goes on to note that I'm convinced we will have 1.6 gigabits per fiber in fiber optics within 2 years. Yes, I had to look this up. I wasn't quite sure what the transmission rates per fiber is. Still couldn't actually get that exact value. But I did find stuff that indicated that in terms of the amount of information that can go through fiber optic systems, starting in the 90s, it doubled every 6 months. So clearly it will have met or probably exceeded any prediction that he did. So the amount of information you can get through fiber optic technology, I don't know how much per fiber, but you can get terabytes now transferred through fiber optic cables. It is important that our machines and new processes resemble human ways of communication rather than an engineer's method of communication. When this happens, people adapt very easily. Okay, I'm not entirely sure what he's talking about there. Video conferencing is a good example. For a long time, I never used it because it wasn't normal. When you walked into a video conference room, you saw an 8 by 10 inch screen with your image on it. Now you walk in, sit down, and have a conversation with people at a conference table, but the conference table is 2,000 miles away. Okay, he said the word now, but I think he actually didn't mean to say now. It should be what he was predicting in the future. Because I don't think in 1987, virtual communication was quite that good. Anyway, you see the person sitting at the other end of the conference table. It is very normal. Well, nowadays, thanks especially to COVID, people are a lot more used to virtual meetings, and it is much more common. And you are basically just looking at other people through a camera, of course, much like you're looking at me now. I don't think people really love virtual meetings over face-to-face. I can't see that once this pandemic is done, that the world's just going to go, well, that's that. We're just all going to go on virtual meetings forevermore. It'll definitely be used a lot more rather than traveling. But no, I don't see that it's all going to go virtual. Now, that's not what he said. He just said that these types of communications will, I guess, become more common and simpler to use. And yeah, we'll have to give him credit for that. That is happening. And thank God we did have that technology, because then if we didn't with the pandemic, I'm not sure what we would do. So Mr. McGowan, okay, he did pretty good. Computer technology improvements in transmitting information through fiber optics, discussion about virtual conferencing, all seem pretty solid. I don't think it was as solid as the level of real predictive detail that someone like Bill Gates had, but definitely the trends he was mentioning did happen. Pretty informative. If you were sitting there in 1987, you'd have to admit most of what he said was correct. So I'll give him a 7, I think. It wasn't as informative as what Bill Gates said, but it was still pretty good. Okay, next up is Timothy Leary. Now that's a name I'm familiar with. Actually, Omni Magazine really got some great people to interview for this. Timothy Leary was a Harvard psychologist who became big in the 60s with hippies and stuff. He started experimenting with hallucinogenic drugs, taking LSD and things like that. And he encouraged people to actually take hallucinogenic drugs as a way to expand your mind and things like that. And I think he coined this famous phrase, something like tune in, turn on, drop out, something like that, to encourage people, expand your consciousness with taking all these drugs. So needless to say, this man has taken a lot of drugs. A lot of drugs. His whole thing was taking drugs and expanding your consciousness with them. He then later actually got into computers. I recall he kind of felt like the computer revolution, the information revolution was actually a very positive thing and could be another way for people to, explore consciousness, or I don't exactly know what he was going on. When I saw his name in this list, I immediately looked up. I knew he had passed away a while ago, but I looked up late interviews on YouTube where in the mid-90s he was still being interviewed, because I figured this guy's brain would be mush by now. And no, actually, surprisingly, he was still quite lucid, quite intelligent. He was, I don't know, he was taking neurotransmitters or something at that point. I think he moved away from taking LSD constantly and was now into other things. I don't know. But I was quite surprised. I was expecting he was just going to be a complete space cadet, but actually, he still seemed pretty with it. So, what did Timothy Leary think the future would look like in 2007? Well, let's find out. By 2007, the problem of scarcity will be solved because most work will be done by robots and computers. You won't have to work. No. No. Okay, very utopian, but no, that hasn't happened yet. Material possessions won't mean as much to us as they do now. If there are 9 Porsches in your garage, you're going to say, take them away. No. No. Wow, that did not happen. Materialism is still a very big deal. Sorry, Tim. This idea that, we've all kind of moved on from material possessions. No, did not happen. The way we define human beings will change. You won't be a serf, a slave, or a worker. Okay. Serf. You're a serf. You were a serf. Who knew? What will you be? A performer. Everyone will be performing. Passive listening, passive observing, passive watching will disappear. Okay, actually, this is pretty big. I mean, it didn't happen to the extent that he's saying. And I wish he had expanded a little more on this point, because this is actually touching upon the phenomenon of social media and everyone having an Instagram and Facebook and a YouTube channel and TikTok, and basically using technology to film themselves, film their lives, and post it online for everyone else to see. And the fact that he said passive watching and passive listening will vanish is not true, because of course we still do a lot of that today. But the content is now being created through social media, and so many people are basically performing, creating content that they edit themselves or create themselves to make sure that you see what they want you to see, and posting it online. So he was really touching on something here, and I wish he could have expanded on this point, that for what he really meant by this, because it might have been close. You might have actually, this is the beginning of a prediction of the social media phenomenon. In 2007, you'll be living in an information society, in which information will be what money and machinery were in the industrial age? Okay, no, I'm not quite sure what he's going on about there. Everyone is going to be a psychologist, computer whiz philosopher. Mind play, mind performance, psychological skill are going to be the equivalent of land, money, and power in the earlier ages. No. No, computer skill is important, and if you're someone who's very good with computers and stuff, yes, that can be very good in today's society, but that you don't need land or money or power, no. Again, this kind of gets back to, he seems to think that materialism will suddenly vanish, and it's like, you're way off there. Every kid will learn how to communicate at a very young age. Every kid will have his own computer, like a pair of sneakers. Yeah, actually, pretty much, between, phones, laptops and things. Yes, computers are very widespread, and almost everyone has a computer now. No one will steal a computer because you'll throw them away. No one will steal an old obsolete computer because it's not worth any money. But yeah, your new phone or your new laptop can definitely be stolen because it's still worth something. So no. Everyone will learn how to chart his thoughts and mental performance like a baseball player's stats. Even kids will plot thoughts like they plot their batting average. Okay, okay, what? Okay, this is the drugs talking. This is what decades of drug use might do to you. I suppose, you can tangibly take it back to social media. And we do now have statistics that we use for our lives. So many people get obsessed with how many likes and clicks and followers you might have. And that is sort of a statistic, I suppose. But I don't think that's exactly what he's referring to, and that you're going to map your thoughts and create statistics like baseball players. Like, what? I don't quite know what he was thinking about there. And since I don't take hallucinogenic drugs, I might never know. The biggest effect will be on blacks and members of other minority groups in this country. In the information age, to keep any poor kid from having a computer would be like keeping him from having food, medicine, shelter, or clothing now. Okay, yes. If children don't have access to computers and the internet, this can be a real issue. Has it created racial equality? No, it certainly has not. But the idea that it is essential for young people to have access to computers and the internet is a big thing. And especially now with the pandemic, if you were a child during the pandemic and your school's closed and yet you didn't have any way to do virtual classrooms and stuff, that would put you at a real disadvantage. So, generally, I think what he's getting to here is having a computer the same as having food? Not quite, but it is still pretty important. Within 20 years, we'll have scrapped the current system of partisan politics. No, that did not happen. It is insane to run a highly complicated, technological, pluralistic society like America when you have in the cabin of the spaceship, I like spaceship, I think that's where his brain kind of gets to sometimes. In the cabin of the spaceship, a Democratic and a Republican candidate kneeing and gouging and beating up each other to see who's going to be president for 4 years. Yeah, that's still going on, yes. Sorry, that is totally happening now, and I can't see that changing anytime soon. Everyone is going to be responsible for government. It will be done by televoting, perhaps every Sunday between, say, 12 and 1. But we'll be voting on major issues, not parties, people, or a glamorous candidate who will play on our superstitions and emotions. Wow. 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 Wow, the exact opposite happened. Oh, poor Timothy Leary. I think he'd be really disappointed with how American politics worked out. But this is so spooky how what he thinks will happen was the exact opposite of what happened. And this idea of, glamorous, famous people, using their fame to, convince others and stuff wow. Amazing quote, though. Okay, so Timothy Leary was, I'd say, for the most part, a little bit off. I'd almost think that rather than what some of the others were doing and seeing a particular thing in the direction it was headed and kind of extrapolating from that, what Timothy Leary was doing was more just projecting what he wanted society to look like. He clearly was looking for this utopian, non-materialistic, very computer-based society, and probably elimination of poverty, and people wouldn't have to work, and robots, computers going to take over everything, and stuff like that. But like, no, I'm sorry, you're way off. It's nice to project your hopes and dreams, but I think the other people were being a bit more realistic in predicting what was going to become possible in 20 years. So, yeah, and I think some of the drugs did play a role. Don't take hallucinogenics, kids. It can mess you up. So I'm going to give Timothy Leary 2. Let's give him a 2. This got pretty wild. We're also gonna give, we'll make it. But we'll give him a point for the thing about how we won't have glamorous candidates anymore. Wow, just because of just how wrong that was, but still very poignant for today. So let's give him a 3. There was a lot to digest there. So the video is still longer than I thought it was going to be. Guess I like talking and all that. So I guess we'll just have a part 3. That's it, just a part 3. Not going to do any more than that. So I'll post that as soon as it's ready. Bye for now.